All right, it's Monday, November 30th, 2020, and this is your weekly look at the latest Altos Research data that came in over the weekend for the entire US real estate market. Each week, Altos tracks every home for sale in the US, all the pricing, the changes in pricing, the supply and demand, and we make those analytics available to our customers so that you can see the trends in the US housing market far before it becomes available through the traditional sources. Next week, on Tuesday, December 8th, we'll have our monthly webinar where we'll wrap up the 2020 year and do a lot of detail on what we can already see in the data for 2021. There is a link in the description below to register for the webinar. If you are a professional in the real estate industry, you should plan to attend. There's still a lot of conflicting opinions about the market. We still see a ton of bearish headlines, like those calling for a catastrophe with foreclosures and evictions. And you'll need to be armed with the real-time data to work with clients who they may be confused about the conflicting messages out there. So join us next week, Tuesday, December 8th, and we'll prepare you for the coming year. Okay, the data this week is partially impacted by the Thanksgiving week, but actually most of that impact will be seen in next week's report. We had about 55,000 new listings this week, with more than that being sold or withdrawn for the holidays. So total available inventory of single family homes in the US is under 500,000 for the first time ever. Inventory will decrease 1 to 2% per week from here until the second week of January. So we'll begin 2021 with about 450,000 homes to buy. Remember that this crisis in shortage is, in the face of huge demand, record low interest rates, surprising affordability, and like a massive group of millennials who are now in their prime home buying age. So given these dynamics, you should be planning for home prices to climb steeply again in 2021. That is, unless we have some exogenous shock hits like a resurgent pandemic or deep recession or spiking mortgage rates. Again, we're going to review all this data and more in next week's hour-long webinar, so register in the link below. No surprise, prices stayed elevated this week, ticking down less than $1,000 from last week. Median home price in the US for the week of November 30th, 2020 is $349,000. I'd expect that to tick back a decent chunk next week when the full Thanksgiving week data is worked into the system. The price of the new listings cohort is $299, right where we'd expect it to be. The new listings cohort hits its low point for the year in the Christmas and New Year's weeks before starting the climb for the spring market in mid-January. So at that point, we'll have a ton of new signal there to report on. Finally, this week, a quick look at the price reductions data in the market. So we've been saying this for months, but price reductions is a leading indicator of where the transactions will close in the coming months. So if you used to referencing some of the traditional numbers like those from NAR or the Case-Shiller or the government stats, this number here is how you will know those will be elevated into the first quarter. Price reductions have a normal band around 35%. Usually reductions decline through the end of the year because the reductions hit when they try to move things before the holidays. Inventory is lower now with fewer reductions. Reductions will be at their lowest level at that with all that fresh inventory in March. So right now, price reductions are only at about 26% instead of, in the 30s. This is yet another sign that we will be starting the year in really the hottest market we have been in for the 15 years that Altos has been doing this data. So as always, that's the story for right now. If the data begins to change, you'll see it here first, and we'll report it as we see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here so you don't miss. Join us next week for the monthly webinar. Register for that in the link below. I hope you and family had a joyful Thanksgiving. Or next week.